In a world of gunfights, car chases, and
proper action and shit,
it can be easy to forget that sometimes less is more. If you've got a compelling story, interesting characters, and some of the best actors of their generation, then it's a safe bet that your movie is going to be every bit as riveting as one of the high-octane CGI fests that plague Hollywood today. And that's exactly what we've got with Black Bag.
The taut, sexy thriller
That seems to have been tragically undermarketed for how good it is. As an aside, I apologize in advance for the number of Archer references I'm sure will be making their way into this video. But you've kind of got to expect it when you're making a spy movie and your main character's name is Woodhouse. The first thing I picked up on, even from the movie's opening frames, was how much it felt like one of those old school Cold War era thrillers. It wasn't anything I could quite put my finger on, but I found myself thinking about LSD mind control programs, briefcase nukes, and Project Acoustic Kitty. It was an immediate vibe, and one that I couldn't help but dig as the movie progressed. Call me a hipster if you want to, but I kept coming back to the phrase, they don't make them like this anymore. I'll admit, however, that while I was engrossed in the world immediately, it took me a moment to understand what Michael Fassbender was doing with his character, George Woodhouse.
Woodhouse!
You see, I've gotten used to Hollywood presenting me with one of two male archetypes. The first is a stoic hardass that cares for nothing and no one. He's a man of few words, and what lines he does speak are often delivered by his fists. Then, you've got your overtly emotional, immature guy. The guy that doesn't look before he leaps, often to the detriment of himself and those around him, and misplaces his anger only for the purposes of the emotional climax at the end of the movie. So imagine my surprise when I saw George Woodhouse, a man who cooks, cleans, and is completely in love with his wife. But come on, it's Cate Blanchett, who wouldn't be? But will also kill you, roll you up in a rug,
fetching a rug, sir.
Now he's fetching a rug!
dump you in the ocean, and sleep soundly that night. I realized that my brief lack of understanding was only in that I'd found a well-rounded male character that was played to perfection by Fassbender. I didn't know what I was seeing for a minute there. Speaking of the wife, let's talk for a moment about Cate Blanchett's Catherine Woodhouse. This woman and her portrayal represents the epitome of how to write a strong female character. She doesn't fight with George for the command of a scene, she shares it with him. They stand on equal footing in all things, and they are supportive of each other to a fault. She is strong, without sacrificing her femininity. She is intelligent, without belittling the men around her. And she is beautiful without having a chip on her shoulder about it. There's been so much discussion these days about what a strong female character isn't, shining a light on all the poorly written, cringe-inducing attempts to create one, that I think it's incredibly important to show what one is. Catherine, don't you ever call her Cate, Woodhouse, is a strong female character. As much as I hate to use this phrase, she is that bitch. As a perfect example of what I'm talking about, I want to highlight a scene about a third of the way through the movie, where she verbally breaks down her therapist to such an extent that the woman cancels all future sessions. Almost placidly, she dissects the therapist's entire history and discusses her myriad issues, all while sitting there with a serene expression on her face, as if she's just chatting with a stranger in her local coffee shop. There's no shouting, there are no threats, there's nothing that would indicate that Catherine is just taking control of the situation, yet her message is imminently clear. Back off, or you won't like how this ends. Next, I'd like to talk about the subtlety that this movie holds so close to its heart. There's no shouting, no pointless monologues intended to pad the runtime or soothe the egos of the cast. The movie prefers to show rather than tell in most cases, allowing the actors to emote realistically, instead of delivering ham-fisted lines to coax the audience along. The dialogue is sharp, and used when necessary, trusting that the audience will understand what's going on. Another thing I loved was that all the industry jargon they used was used correctly. Words like skiff and SIGINT are dropped casually by the characters because that's how they're used in the intelligence community. All too often in movies like this, these phrases worm their way into the dialogue because the writers want to show off how much research they've done on the topic. The end results are usually overlong sentences that nobody can understand, filled with words that make no sense to anyone outside a very niche group of people. Black Bag feels like it was written by somebody who lives in the intelligence space. This becomes even more apparent when you take a look at how this movie is structured, namely in the progression of its narrative thread. More and more frequently these days, movies will forgo the logic of action and reaction in favor of getting the characters where they need to be because they have to be there. A perfect example of what I'm talking about is in The Force Awakens, when Rey just happens to find Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber in some random box in the basement of a bar. We aren't told how it ended up there, or why, Rather, we're actively told, don't worry about it.
A good question. For another time.
It's there because it has to be there, simply so we can progress to the next set piece. In Black Bag, reaction follows action. Characters go places and do things because they're reacting to the changing circumstances. Everything proceeds logically, nothing feels out of place, and there are no gaps in the story. I realize that this is a pretty stupid thing to comment about. After all, it should be an easy thing to do from a writing standpoint. But I promise you, if you pick any given movie, especially a blockbuster, that's been released within the last 5 to 10 years, and watch it critically, I'd be willing to bet that there are at least 2 moments in it where logic has been thrown out the window. Moments where characters just show up somewhere, or make ridiculous intellectual leaps in the service of moving the plot along. Sadly, it's become the norm these days that writers write for the set pieces rather than the plot. After all, what's more visually and aurally stimulating? A planet-sized machine that can blow up 5 other planets because fuck you, that's why? Or a quiet dinner scene where there's a traitor and a killer hiding amongst the group? Maybe it's that I'm aging into my movie taste, but I'm seriously starting to prefer the dinner scene. In no small part, this is because I'm watching actual human beings acting and reacting with other actual human beings. Say that 5 times fast. If you've been watching my channel for a while, then you know I tend to harp on Hollywood's over-reliance on CGI. No, that's not the right word, is it? Addiction? Yeah, it really is an addiction at this point, isn't it? Hollywood's addiction to CGI. And you might be tired of hearing me talk about it at this point, but tough. This is a hill I'm willing to die on. Actors will always deliver a better performance if they have people and things to react to. A movie will always be better off if as many effects as possible are practical. And a lack of CGI forces not only the production team, but the writing team to be much more careful when crafting their movie. If you're looking for an example, then look no further than Black Bag. See how I brought it all back in the end? Anyway, that's all I've got for you this time, so if you could do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe buttons, I'd really appreciate it. Every little bit really helps me out. Also, go ahead and check out the other videos on my channel, or hit up my website to see my blog and maybe buy one of my books on Amazon. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Every single time we come over here, we have to help you get rid of a dead body.
Well, you've only been here twice.